All right, so I finished watching 15 quarterbacks, the only 15 quarterbacks I'm going to watch in this upcoming NFL draft. And I'm not going to rank them today. I'm actually going to kind of put them in tiers, and tiers as far as the Rams are concerned. So you Rams fans, this is a video that you're going to see. This is a template for a video you will be seeing repeatedly. Each position, I'm going to rank these by tiers. Guys like Bryce Young won't be on this video because the Rams aren't in a position to acquire Bryce Young. Unless there's a giant trade coming, which I don't see happening. So it's going to be realism here. It's going to be in the range of where they pick, and that's how it's going to be. So we're going to do each position. Starting off, this is an entire video about the quarterbacks. Once I finish, watching all the running backs and so forth, we'll have videos on those. So here are my findings. So far, right now, we're going to be talking about the second round because that is when the Rams pick. That's the first pick of the 2023 NFL Draft. And in the second round, I gave 2 second-round grades. Actually 3 in this one. Will Levis is one of those guys. I don't think he's going to fall here, so I'm not even going to consider him an option. I think he's going to go in the first round. I think there's going to be a team that falls in love with his ability to, obviously make plays on the run, that size, the raw talent. I have some concerns about Will Levis. I think that he can definitely develop into something, but I don't think he's a guaranteed first round pick, in my opinion. I know he's probably going to go in the first round, but I would not take him there. So looking at just in the Rams perspective of things, in the second round, I look at Hendon Hooker, my number 4 quarterback in the draft. This is somebody that is the most balanced quarterback in this draft. And I think when you look at what he brings to the table, this is somebody that can make plays with his legs. He's 25 years old. And while some people may look at that as a knock on him, I don't think so. I think this is somebody that showed you, there's some maturation there that has occurred over the last few years. He led Tennessee to, honestly, could have led them to the college football playoff if he didn't get hurt. Once again, I understand the concern with the torn ACL, but this is somebody, in my opinion, I think the Rams could get him also in the third round. I think it's going to be that second, third round area. He is a second round talent, arguably could have been a first round talent if healthy. And I think he gives you something behind Matthew Stafford. I think he's one of the premier backup options. If you're looking at the draft, I think he can come in and right away be the backup for Matthew Stafford, develop into a franchise quarterback. And I think he's probably your best bet for the Rams if you're looking for a quarterback. If you're looking for a quarterback in this draft long-term, and should they do this, they would be open to potentially trade away their 2024 first rounder. I think right now, until they have that quarterback of the future, I don't think you mess around trading away that first rounder. So it does present an opportunity there. Now, the thing about Hendon Hooker, and you got to love, is that, like I mentioned, balance. This is a guy that can help you as a pocket passer. He can roll out to his right or, against his body, throw against his body, to the left. He's got good enough ball accuracy, I think, from all areas of the field, whether it's short, intermediate, or deep. He definitely has an arm. And this is somebody that I think would make a lot of sense in the Sean McVay offense. You could get him out on bootlegs to get him comfortable with the game, the NFL speed and everything. But make no mistake about it. I mean, if he was available, I would really consider taking him if I'm the LA Rams and I'm, in need of somebody like a backup, but also offers the upside of being a potential franchise quarterback down the road. I'm imagining, because of the ACL tear and he's 25 years old, he's going to go in the third round, but he is at the very least a second round talent on film. And I don't think he's getting enough talk. And I think this is somebody that could fly under the radar a little bit. We've seen it in the past. Malik Willis went in the third round last year, and everybody was talking about him as a first-round pick. So stranger things have happened, but I definitely think this is the number 1 guy for the Rams. And I put him in the top tier when you're talking about guys that are even possible. Moving on, I have number 5th overall quarterback in this draft is Jaren Hall out of BYU. Fascinating thing about Jaren Hall is that he is an improviser, but he wants to get his feet set. He's not trying to throw, he'll throw on platform, no doubt about it. Off platform, but he's not trying to just to run. Like, he's trying to run to create opportunities to throw the football. And he kind of, because of this, reminds me a little bit about, former BYU quarterback Zach Wilson. But before you roll your eyes, I see him more as like a Jalen Hurts mix with Russell Wilson. And I understand those are some big names to throw around, but that's the kind of guy you're getting. You're getting a guy that can move around the pocket, but he's got pocket mobility. He's not really a scrambling quarterback, although he can, get out and run for a first down if need be, but he trusts his arm. And this is somebody that, I think there are some issues. He doesn't make full field reads. More half field, but I think that comes in time. I think he's definitely somebody that could start right away, kind of similar to Russell Wilson, a 3rd round pick, or Dak Prescott, a 4th round pick. If he's the Dak Prescott of this draft, I wouldn't be surprised at all. You're probably looking at him as a 2nd, 3rd round pick, maybe even later. I've seen some saying he's a 5th or 6th rounder. He definitely has to be number 2 on the board for the Rams as far as realism here. And, I think this is a guy that can start, if need be. Obviously, you wouldn't need him to because of Matthew Stafford, but I just mentioned Hendon Hooker. The ACL is the only thing that kind of leads me to believe he couldn't start right away. But I definitely feel like Jaren Hall is somebody that you can kind of build around and work with. And this is an intriguing option for the Rams. He's not big by any stretch. He's about 6 feet tall. But I'm not really worried about the size and the strength and all that. This is somebody that shows the awareness in the pocket, the wherewithal to step up and make a big time throw. And I really like Jaren Hall. I think this is definitely a guy that kind of is flying under the radar a little bit, but should be an interesting option and can work with today's NFL game, translating more to running the ball as a quarterback. I think he makes a lot of sense for the Rams. He's number 2 on my board in this top tier of quarterbacks that are available for the Rams. And then wrapping it up here in the top tier, we're going to stick with the guy who was just in the Senior Bowl, just like Jaren Hall, but actually, really turned heads. He's been mentioned on my show multiple times, basically reading somebody's comment in a live stream or what have you. But Jake Haener, you look at Jake Haener out of Fresno State, again, not the best size in the world, but that's not something I care about. He's a very balanced quarterback. He played through a lot of injury, not necessarily injuries, but just you could see he was in pain and he played through it. And that's something that I noticed on tape. The guy has a toughness level beyond clearly me, but a lot of people watching this. I mean, this guy is, he's made for the NFL, I think. And, you look at Fresno State and the first thing you think of is Derek Carr. There's no reason to assume that he'll be Derek Carr, but there's no reason to assume that he can't ascend to that level and be a starting quarterback in this league. And he showed that at the Senior Bowl, throwing to the best of the best and looking good while doing it. So, I think this is a more well-rounded passer, kind of similar to Hendon Hooker. He can help you with his legs, but he doesn't, want to just run the ball. He can throw from the short intermediate game. His deep ball is pretty solid. I do think he's more generally accurate than pinpoint accurate, but he'll surprise you sometimes, really putting the placement there with the ball. So I think those are the top 3. We talk about Hendon Hooker, Jaren Hall, and of course, Jake Haener. That's the top 3 of the top tier when you're talking about Rams going after a quarterback. We move on to the next tier. So this is the 4th, 5th, 6th round. I would say probably 4th and 5th round, we'll say, with the potential of going in the 3rd, but likely 4th and 5th. And we'll start off with Stetson Bennett out of Georgia. I think he's definitely an option. I've said it before. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up playing in SoFi Stadium again as a Ram. He, of course, as you know, won the national title, the 2nd national title he's won at Georgia back-to-back, winning 65-7 over TCU. Now, this is somebody going in and watching his tape. I didn't expect him to be as good as he ended up being on film. He wasn't Jake Fromm for me. I could never really get with Jake Fromm's tape. I didn't get the hype. I never saw it, quite honestly. You had Justin Fields. You had Jacob Eason. Felt like Jake Fromm was the least talented of those 3, but he's the one that started. That was not the case with Stetson Bennett. I feel like Bennett can play in this league. He can eventually become a starter if you have patience with him and you can develop him. He's got traits and he's got tools and he's got leadership skills that are just not aplenty. And so I think before you just write off Stetson Bennett as a meme or whatever, and I understand, he's going to measure in at 5'10", 5'11". Again, size doesn't really bother me at this point. And I know he's older, but he's an improviser. He's a guy that can work on the run. He's a guy that can, throw off platform. He can work off script. I would like him to be a little bit more calm in the pocket. He gets erratic. He does put himself in position to fail, but he didn't fail much in college. And you can say, well, Jake, he threw to a lot of weapons. You talk about Bowers. You talk about McKee. You talk about even the last national title when he was throwing to George Pickens. You have James Cook. Like, I understand he's had a lot of talent, a lot of weapons, but let's not take credit away from him. He's a 2-time national champion in college football. That is impressive. And I understand he was at Georgia. I understand that defense was great, but he had to make the plays when needed. He did go up against the SEC. So you have pass rushers coming from, Will Anderson out of Alabama. You have guys like that on a weekly basis. And what I found is when I watched the tape, Stetson Bennett was able to hang in there and he was able to deliver a strike, whether it was to McKee, or whether it was to Bowers or whoever. He was able to deliver a confident strike to those guys. He wouldn't always be a pinpoint accurate quarterback, would throw behind him at times, but he's able to get the ball to them. And then in, panicking situations, he was able to make something out of nothing with his, running ability. So Stetson Bennett, to me, 4th round pick, just clear as day, 4th round pick, in my opinion. I think the Rams could get him with the compensatory pick that they're going to be receiving for Darius Williams signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that's probably like a late 4th rounder would make a lot of sense. I think he could back up Stafford. Obviously, the Georgia connection's there, and we could talk about that all we want, but he's talented, and I don't think he's getting enough credit. And while I'm not a fan of his recent arrest, and for those of you who don't know, he was arrested for being publicly intoxicated. It could be worse. It's embarrassing, but let's not forget Baker Mayfield was also arrested and he became the number 1 overall pick, and that didn't really matter. So, I like Stetson Bennett. He's the top of this second tier of quarterbacks, in my opinion, that the Rams could go after in the 4th and 5th round. And I would probably have him as a late 4th rounder for the Rams, but maybe they trade up to get him or something where they don't have to move up too much. But I could see him going in the 4th round out of Georgia. So the improviser there. Now we go with a 4th, 5th round talent, Aidan O'Connell. I had Bennett at 8th overall on my list. Aidan O'Connell comes in at 9th. I think he makes a lot of sense for the Rams as a backup quarterback and a developmental one at that. He comes out of Purdue, and this is a pocket passer all the way. Okay. If you're looking for a guy that is going to make plays with his legs, Bennett makes the most sense out of that tier. But Aidan O'Connell throws missiles. He is a guy that has a lot of velocity and he's not afraid to use it. He helps you in the short and intermediate game, and he's a solid deep ball thrower of the football. But the thing with Aidan O'Connell is that he is quite honestly a statue in the pocket. He doesn't move very well outside of structure. He is more of a guy that you need to protect. So does that put pressure on the Rams? Absolutely, because when you look at last year, would Aidan O'Connell survive if Stafford went down and, God forbid, would he survive under constant pressure the offensive line was bringing? I don't think so. I think you're more likely to get something out of Stetson Bennett than you would Aidan O'Connell in this case. So the 4th, 5th rounder, I have him rated below Stetson Bennett, but I do think he is an option. He'd be in the 2nd tier. And then wrapping up the 2nd tier, we have 3 quarterbacks, I will say. We have Clayton Tune, actually 2. We have Clayton Tune here out of Houston. He's my 10th overall quarterback in the draft. He is an improviser. He's got some tools that I really do like. The former Kansas commit ended up going to Houston. I really like what I saw out of Clayton Tune. Now, there are some moments, don't get me wrong. He's going to make the, poor decision. He's going to try to do too much. He's going to put himself in harm's way. But he can run, he can make plays, out of structure. And the big thing with him is that he's confident. He believes in his arm, and obviously that can go poorly. But I really do, like him in the 4th, 5th round area, maybe 6th round. But he, fills in right about the end of this second tier. And then the guy that wraps up this second tier is the 11th overall quarterback on my board, Tanner McKee out of Stanford, another guy with a flamethrower of an arm, has great velocity, will throw it short and intermediate. This is somebody to me that is more of a game manager. So if you're looking at a guy that could replace Stafford and you're not really looking at him being a franchise quarterback, you're looking at him being, potentially like a Jimmy Garoppolo, developing him, but having him just manage the game, then this is your guy. I mean, I'll be honest with you, comes from Stanford. He's well coached. He's 6'6". He looks exactly like Mike Glennon. Now, that might not be the biggest compliment ever, but he looks exactly like him, as tall as he is, but he plays better than he does, in my opinion. I don't think he's ever going to be a tried and true starter, but I could see him filling in as kind of that game manager that you look at to kind of just win you some games. If you have a really good defense or you have a really good run game, he makes sense at the end of this second tier. At the top of the third tier, we're talking 6th, 7th. We're talking draftable. That's what we'll put it. Or the rest, let's just call it that. So the rest of the draft, okay, day 3, late day 3. Where are we at this point? So Max Duggan, to me, is the best option for the Rams as far as day 3, late day 3 quarterback option. He's more of a Taysom Hill type. I think he has some tools there as a passer, but I think he's going to work well as a sub-package guy. And so that, to me, offers some ability for the Rams. However, I will say, do I trust Max Duggan, late day 3? Do I trust him to back up Stafford? I don't. I think he's going to take some time. And so for that being said, I think you draft him as somebody that could potentially develop into a quarterback, but you're looking for a guy that can give you kind of that wild card Taysom Hill type of role where you can use him in sub packages and what have you. So he is the headliner of this final tier, but I would say him. And then number 13, he was number 12. Number 13, you guys know him because I know a lot of you are UCLA fans. I mentioned him, Dorian Thompson-Robinson at UCLA, also known as DTR, like the brand that we have, DTR, Downtown Rams. 6'1", 191. He is a scrambler. Make no mistake about it. He is an athlete, but he got better as a passer over time. That tells me that he's coachable. He had a really good connection, clearly, with Chip Kelly, and he is well regarded among his teammates and the fans and just people around the league. They very much speak highly of him. He's somebody that's well liked. So you talk about Dorian Thompson-Robinson, adding him at the end of the draft does make a lot of sense because he has that athleticism, kind of similar to Bryce Perkins. But in addition to that, he's played in some massive games. And also on top of that, just to see him year after year get better and better and better, going from a 58% completion percentage all the way up to 68, 69 level. Clearly this guy is coachable. He got better over time, and that's something you like to see. Also, it's not like he had the most weapons ever in the world either. He had some good weapons in Charbonnet and, of course, Jake Bobo, but he didn't have everything in front of him. So he did have to make things happen. Sometimes, play would break up and, he would be able to make things happen, whether it's hurdling over a defender or what have you. So he is number 2 on this final tier. And I think he makes sense for the Rams. If you're looking for a late flyer, this obviously when you're in this tier, you're not looking for a backup for Stafford. You're probably admitting that either John Wolford's coming back, he'll be the backup, Bryce Perkins will be the backup, or you're signing somebody. You're not drafting somebody right here and there to be your backup. You're drafting him for developmental, you're drafting him for practice squad purposes. So for that reason, Max Duggan, comes in at number 1 on this final tier, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson comes in at number 2. Both offer sub-package qualities that should intrigue teams for sure. And then lastly, I did, watch 15, but as far as I have 14 draftable quarterbacks, And the 14th is Tyson Bagent, who already is wearing horns. He's actually wearing the more of the original horns for Shepherd University Rams. Now, this is the D2 quarterback that, if you didn't look at, he turned some heads over in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. This is a guy that's a more balanced quarterback. So you go back to talk about the archetype like a Jake Haener or a Hendon Hooker. He can make plays with his legs. He can make plays on the run. But I think really he wants to be a pocket passer. He wants to use his deep ball. He wants to throw the short and intermediate game. He wants to spread the ball all over the field. He wants to spread it around his wide receivers. He wants to give everyone an opportunity. Look, he did not have mind-blowing tape. I will say that right now. I didn't watch Tyson Bagent and thought this guy was a man amongst boys. It wasn't like watching Trey Lance in the FCS, but the D2 quarterback went to the Senior Bowl, put on some good film as far as the practice and even during the game. And I think he's definitely going to get drafted. Could be a 7th round pick, could be a 6th rounder. But I think this is somebody, he's got more of a live arm than Taylor Heineke, but don't be surprised if he ends up being that Taylor Heineke that starts someday as an emergency or a spot starter or whatever. So the way I see it is he rounds out the final tier. I think the Rams could grab him. He's already wearing horns, but regardless, this is a developmental guy. I would not want him backing up Stafford, but if you can grab him in the 6th or 7th round and you like him enough, I think it makes sense. So that's how I have it, guys. Just went through all the quarterbacks. I watched 15. We're moving on to the running backs next, then the wide receivers, tight ends, offensive line, etc. But I wanted to report my findings. I'll have another video where I basically go more in depth and I rank each quarterback, all 15 that I watched. I'll tell you their pros and their cons in more than just a minute TikTok or a minute YouTube short or Instagram reel, whatever. But that will be my plan. So I thought this was the best way to do it for Rams fans to understand who makes sense. If you're looking at the draft board, if you're looking at mock drafts, if you're looking for anybody that makes sense for the Rams, the top tier to review, we have Hendon Hooker, Jaren Hall, and Jake Haener. The second tier is Stetson Bennett, Aidan O'Connell, Clayton Tune, and Tanner McKee. And the third tier is Max Duggan, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Tyson Bagent. The first tier are guys that could potentially start if need be, but can also be the backup and be a franchise quarterback down the road. The second tier I look at as guys that maybe could develop into something like a franchise quarterback, but likely you're looking at somebody that's going to be a backup capable guy behind Stafford this year. And then the third tier are guys with potential that you could develop and have a unique skill set that can help you in sub packages, but you're not trying to bring them in to be QB2 essentially. Not this year anyway. So that's how I have it. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you guys later.
If you haven't joined Prize Picks yet, you need to do it this season. Prize Picks allows you to pick up to 5 player props, and it gives you the option to 10x your winnings. Look at this right now. Tom Brady right now, for a limited time only, is a free square, because unless he gets hurt, he is going to be getting that 0.5. I'm going to select Tom Brady. I'm going to select Josh Allen going 275.5. Matthew Stafford going 265.5. We'll just throw Lamar Jackson in here, and let's just throw Justin Fields gets more than 191.5. So what you do here, you put more or less if you believe, Lamar Jackson gets less than that. And there you go, 10x your winnings if this pays out. You will actually get paid out even if you only hit 3 of them. You'll get 0.4 times your money back. You'll get 2 times. You'll double your money if you get at least 4 out of 5. Deposit today by using our promo code DTRAMS, and you'll get up to a $100 bonus match.